Hey guys, so I just got back from our family trip to Oregon this summer and we had a lot of fun, but it was time to come home, and on our way home we stopped by this really awesome nursery. They had a lot of really neat stuff there. Being over on the Oregon coast, it's just cool, and in fact it is hotter than heck after coming inland more and being back home, but it's just real cool and breezy over there. It's probably like 60-70 degrees with the sun beaten down, but just nice and cool. So everything is just so much more lush and green over there. And this nursery anyway was really awesome. And while I was there, they had a hydrangea that was just blooming with the most beautiful deep blue flowers, and I have been trying to figure out hydrangea for a while, never have been able to. So I just asked them if they would let me take some cuttings, and they said sure. You know, I offered to pay. They didn't want any money, and this was a nursery. They just had it's growing in the ground. I took a whole bunch of cuttings from their nursery, and we'll go ahead and stick these guys and see if they take, and that way I'll know when they finally do start blooming whether it's the actual hydrangea or whether it's me and what I'm doing to the soil. Now I've heard, you know, you've got to have the right acidity in the soil to make them blue, but I think genetics play some part in it, so we're going to find out. We'll propagate these, show you how we do that, and we'll see, you know, knowing that these were actually, I saw the flowers with my own eyes. They are deep, deep blue, really beautiful, and we'll find out once and for all, is it me or is it the flower? And then we'll come back and see how things are rooting in a couple months. So let's go ahead and see these things getting potted up. All right, so here's my potting bench. We've got everything I think that we're going to need for this, and let's see here. We've got a few 4.5-inch pots. We've got the hydrangea cuttings that we're going to kind of whittle down here, and then we've got Hormidin 3. This is the rooting hormone I like to use for just about anything. I've used Dip and Grow and other forms of rooting medium in the past, but I really like the Hormidin 3 because I do roti cutting so much and they really need more a stronger hormone. So here's my little dibbler. Actually, it's just a stick I just found, but it'll work. And then pruning shears we need. And so let's go ahead and get started. And I don't know if I've showed this in a video before, but I like to use these alcohol swabs. You can get it in any drugstore to just wipe down the pruning shears first so they're clean from whatever you were doing last time. So when I take any cuttings, especially cuttings like these are, you know, more softwood cuttings. I know we're in the middle of August. You could call them semi-hardwood maybe, but it's such succulent growth that, I don't know, you could almost call it softwood, maybe somewhere between softwood and semi-hardwood. But I will go ahead and just take off a couple of these leaves here and then clip it down. And when I take the cutting, I like to take it right below a leaf node. So you saw those leaves were right there coming out of there, and I pulled them off and just cut right below the node because there's a higher concentration of differentiating cells in those nodes that can actually then go and form roots. And then from rhodes, we'll strip the excess leaves off of these guys and then take just a little sliver from the bark here to get down to that cambium layer so that these things can root a little bit easier. And then of course we'll cut these leaves down by half maybe, just to prevent excess moisture loss. So there's our cutting, and we've got our rooting hormone here. And go ahead and swirl that around in there. Tap off the excess, and there you have it, all covered up with rooting hormone. That's just a real nice cutting and should form some awesome roots. Stick it in the pot. Actually, let's get the dibbler. Let's get our $5,000 dibbler here. We'll poke a little hole in there. And I don't do that for rhodes, but for these softer plants I do that because I don't want to damage the stem and bend it, break it, anything like that. We'll pack down that rooting medium, which is actually just the same fine bark that I use, or medium bark. Well, not medium, probably more fine bark that I use for the roadies. And then that's all you have. So I'm going to go ahead and finish all these guys up, and then I'll show you what they look like. Alright, so it's actually the next day, August 18th. I ended up having to wait another day because I wanted to propagate a few other plants that needed to get watered well and just needed to soak in some water into the plant and just really hydrate well before I took the cuttings. So I waited a day. Anyway, this is what I ended up using. Now, definitely not a large-scale propagation bed here, but for just odds and ends and little cuttings of plants that I like. You know, I like to grow other plants besides rhodies, and so occasionally I like to take cuttings and just do things, you know, just grow on a few other different varieties. So in here I ended up deciding I did all the hydrangeas that I had showed you. I labeled, I'm not sure of the varieties of a couple of them because I just was able to get those cuttings at the nursery, and it had been growing there for a long time. They didn't even know the particular variety. And then one of them was just wild. I found off of the side of the road there, leading down to a beach called Hug Point on the Oregon coast. So I just labeled them Hug Point. And this one here is Glowing Embers. That's a variety that I bought. That's the real deep pink that I really like. And then this is that blue one right here. I just labeled them blue because, once again, we don't know the variety, but they're going all the way back here down all these rows. So, and then I went ahead and did some Weigella. I really liked variegated Weigella, so I did a bunch of those cuttings. I think I've got, what is it, 4 or 5, 10, 11, 12, 13 cuttings total. And you know, they'll do perfect in those little pots. They don't need anything big. You could actually probably put more cuttings in one of those little pots, but I just took 13 because that was what was easily accessible on the plant. And then some Java Red Weigella. The Java Red's a real pretty variety too, and they go well with the variegated. But so that's all I've done right now. I could definitely fit more in here. If I wanted to just fill the whole bottom with bark, that would work out too. But I just, you know, wanted to do individual pots so I could pull them out and put them in the hoop house when they started rooting on. So these little totes, I mean, this makes it super easy. I found this at I think Walmart for like 15 bucks, and it's even got a foam lining along here that when clamped down, it just seals it up and keeps all the moisture in, and that works out great for cuttings. So the lid is clear so it can let light through. I've definitely got all of this on the back side of my barn, or you know, you could put on the back side of any building, the north side, so that the sun's not hitting it directly. You want lots of overhead light, which right here I have plenty of overhead light between these two buildings, and it ends up protecting from the sun really well. The sun never will hit this except for maybe, if that, maybe 15 minutes in the evening, just right up between those trees and the roof of the barn. So I'm not too worried about that at all, but I might even move it behind the house. But this works out really well, and like I said, like 15 bucks, and you can't go wrong. You just pot up your cuttings, put them in this little tote, seal it up. It's the summertime. We've got plenty of warm months to go, at least in Washington. We usually have Indian summers, and so we have plenty of sun and warmth up through October. So I'm not worried about bottom heat at all for these guys. They'll root on just fine, especially the varieties that I have in there. The Weigella will really take off soon. So we'll come back and we'll check this out in, I don't know, probably 2 months, and we'll see where things are at. I'll let you see how well they rooted on. All right. Well, it's been about a month since, well, a little over a month since I took these cuttings of these hydrangea and Weigella. Let's see what we've got. All right, pop little locks down on this lid. I love this little propagation box and how it turned out. It has just been really cool. I love how it seals up. Everything stayed real humid in there. All right, so we've got the cuttings here. It's been, I think it was August 18th or 19th when we did that last little clip of video, and you saw that when I took these cuttings. But we're, what is it, September, I think 26th or 7th now, so you know, a little over a month, like 5 weeks. And I popped this box open and look down in here. Look at what I saw. This is absolutely crazy. Because there's so much humidity in here, these roots are just growing right into the air. You can see them growing down into the soil there too. These are that Hug Point rhododendron. I named them Hug Point because that's where I got them, Hug Point, Oregon. They were just growing wild on the side of the road. But anyway, those things are just rooting like crazy. So let's see how we're going to do this. Let's take one of these out and see what we get. All right. I don't know how this is going to work. I'm going to try and tip this guy upside down. Yeah, nothing going through all the way there, but let's see, maybe we can peel some of that back and just kind of pull it out, tease it out. Yep, look at those roots. All right, there we go. All right, so you can see, I think, all of these roots here growing out through that little hydrangea. I mean, that's the whole root ball right there. You can see the little roots coming out through the end there. Anyway, I mean, we're talking 5 weeks, and this isn't even springtime. This is in the late summer, so I don't think it really matters when you take these cuttings. Something else I wanted to show you. I already kind of looked in this box, and I was looking at the Weigela because I know those root really, really quickly. Let me put these guys back. Those Weigela root really, really quickly, so I pulled them out and took a look at them already, and they have got some massive roots growing in here. Let's see here if I can do this again. I mean, they're just growing like crazy. 5 weeks, variegated Weigela, taken in the middle of August. Anyway, I'm gonna have to pot them suckers up, or they're gonna take over, get all intertwined there, and become a real problem. So, if you're ever interested in propagating hydrangea or Weigela, I've got variegated Weigela and Java red Weigela in there. Several different types of hydrangea. They all rooted. These guys are in here really firm. I'm excited about that. That's that blue variety I was telling you about. So if you're ever interested in that, that's all we did. We just used some fine pine or fine fir bark and a tote that I bought at Walmart, and then just a bunch of little 4.5 inch pots, and just potted them up. Nothing special. Watered them in real good, and 5 weeks later, there we are. I used some rooting hormone that I showed you, but other than that, there's nothing special here. So hope you guys can take that and make something happen and have an awesome day. All right, adios.